Reed Laflamme. Present. Councillor Close. Present. Councillor Roberts.
Present.
The technology. Councillor Reagan.
Present.
Councillor Summers.
Present.
And Councillor Kelsey.
Present.
And I'm here, Councillor King. Call to order, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Hearing none, I have a suggested motion that the agenda be adopted as presented. Moved by Jeannie, seconded by Marina, all in favor, and that's carried. Approval of the minutes. Suggested motion that the committee of the whole meeting minutes of February 11th, 2025 be approved and circulated. Moved by Councillor Summers, seconded by Reed Laflamme, all in favor, and that's carried. Now we go to delegations or presentations. We have some communications. Anybody wanna, there's actually one that I wanna flag. Does anybody have any others? Jimmy?
7.6.
7.6. Why don't we start with yours, Jeannie?
Okay, so it's a release from the county, and it's regarding the climate grant application. And I had just kind of quickly asked before the meeting whether we had received forms. We have, and I'm having a meeting this Saturday, so I'm going to bring it up with the waste committee, just to make sure that we get funding this year. We missed out last year.
Good, okay, and, yeah, because I think that's $10,000.
It's 75 for this year. Yeah.
Okay. And the one that I was gonna flag was the, just the flyer from the library on the Kids March break. We don't want to need to respond to it or motion, but I just want to make sure everybody saw it. The library is doing so much more now than just lending books, and it's good examples of the children's activities during March break, and I think filling a pretty important void in our community right now. Having for kids that age to be able to go and participate in all these different events. So that's good for the library. Brandon?
Thank you. 7-Eleven
7-Eleven?
was the
Yes.
consultation on major studies of the aggregate. Yeah, I just wondered if that was something we could share on our social media platforms. I know that the public says often they don't hear about or have an opportunity to voice their opinions. So this is an opportunity where the county is asking for opinions on some things that
Sure.
are related to us. So yeah, thank you.
I think we can do that. From my perspective, it's a county consultation and it's been well publicized by the county. I have a suggested motion that communications dated today be received as information. Moved by Jeannie, seconded by Ron, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. We have start with reports, building, planning, and protective services, Kyle.
Thank you, Chair. Just having to wake it up, probably, just having a couple. Alright, great. So I would suggest a motion that council accepts the building report for the fourth quarter of 2024. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to take a look at it. To summarize it quickly, total permits for the year were down. For the fourth quarter, we were down compared to last year. Revenue down, and construction costs down. I did receive an email from CNO asking to include a comparison for kind of everything full year. So I will include that in the next report. The nice thing with it being a little slower, permits coming in, was able to do an audit back for security deposits, so we can work on trying to get, let's say, 2020 right now. I would reach out to people and try to get the money back to them, those are the projects. And then, due to the fact with revenue months to being down, I'm going to bring a report to March meetings, kind of a suggestion, for possibly upping the building fees, as the department should And we revenue neutral. But, I'll bring a couple options and, we'll go from there. Thank you.
On the last note, I was thinking it would be, without bogging you down too much work, it'd be good to have a sense of how we're priced vis-a-vis other municipalities. And
Yeah, I can include that in.
anybody have any questions or comments on the building report, Jeannie?
It's just a comment, and it just looks like the trend is people are tending to renovate more than new builds.
Yes, he has a question.
So I went ahead and I was looking up just some different stats on, so 2021, new houses 28, total permits 135. 2022, total permits 133, we had 46 new single family dwellings that year. Which some of them haven't even started, some people are starting now.
Wow.
And then last year, 24 total, total permits, and this year, I'm sorry, 2024, we were down to 17, and then say 2023 was 24. 91 total permits, 24, 17 single family dwellings. And 80, so the trend for the last couple of years has been going down. Still kind of dealing with that 2022 high, but it's slowing down as well.
Councilor Roberts, has a question for Chair?
For sure, Steve, go ahead.
Thanks for the report, Kyle. Just a question on, it's getting slower sold, but do we have a lot of open permits that we need to close out that have been lengthy, open for a long time, or are we on top of our permits in that respect?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, the nice thing about land permits, applications coming in, there's usually quite a few people spinning their wheels, asking lots of questions, seeking guidance and help. But the nice thing is that I can go back and start working through old permits. So currently I'm working on 2022 because it needs to go in storage. And then I'll probably start on 2021, or I may go back to 2019, but because I did the audit on the security deposits and we have quite a large number that we're holding on to. For our policy, I think I'm going to just work back to the previous year and keep going forward on trying to get that off the books.
Okay, Councilor Close.
Thank you, through you, Chair. The only question I have is, I don't know how you approach this subject, is people doing stuff without permits. And I think it's been an issue, I'm sure it's probably an issue in all municipalities have the same problem. But because I know, there are people that certainly will take advantage of new buildings without permits, not new builds, your new builds are probably all gonna get permits, but the renovation ones, there's probably lots of it's happening, so. I don't know if that's something we look at, moving forward, if there's a way we can, sort of police that a little bit better, and it's not fair to the people that are paying permits, we're trying to make this thing, revenue neutral, so that pays, so. I mean, I think there's probably some lost dollars that we're not getting.
And I even wonder if at some point if we could look at doing an information campaign, because I know myself, I did some work 15 years ago that I had no idea required a permit. All right,
I just wanted to add on to that, I have looked through our existing applications and I'm hoping that I can borrow from other municipalities what I like and what kind of works for our municipality, add to it and bring them up to date. Because there's information that we need to the public within those and when they were last done. So maybe another thing that I can just do, or I can bring forward. You let me know.
Okay, any other questions? We're good? So we have a suggested motion that council accepts report BLD 2024-04, fourth quarter building reports for 2024 as information. That's moved by Councilor Summers, seconded by Councilor Kelso, all in favor? And that's carried. Who's doing the next two reports? Is that? You. Okay, so, over to community services with an update on the youth center. From Suzanne.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we, due to illness, I'm filling in for Chelsea and also filling in for Rhonda, unfortunately, ill today. So on the youth center, back in January, right in the January meeting, Councilor Reagan had brought forward a request for staff to look into some of the challenges that are currently impacting the relationship between the township and the youth center. So myself and our manager of facilities, community affairs, met with the executive director at the time and the chair for the youth center. And we had that meeting on the 23rd of January. And so this report really aims to just kind of provide a summary of what was discussed and the kind of outcomes and plans following that. So I'll just run through the list at a very kind of high level. So touched on the staffing and that the executive director position is open and they're recruiting for that as of the end of January. Memorandum of understanding, it was produced as a draft, so we were able to look at some of those comments at the meeting, and it is included as part of this staff report and request to receive any comments from council before approving that document as well. The payroll system, so currently township staff manage the payroll system for the youth center, but we are trying to transition that over. So there were some discussions about how staff can support, or our staff can support the youth center in doing that. And also provide 2024 financial information as required. So that has been completed, at least at the GL report level, by our treasurer to the youth center. There was some discussions on building maintenance requests, and a lot of this really came down to communication methods. So we really tried to identify a clearer path for making sure that we can resolve any issues or challenges that come up, both with the youth center facility itself and also with renting our recreation facilities and any issues that come along the way with that. One of the big topics and one of the big concerns was a funding challenge, especially focused at the Ontario Trillium Fund grant. And the province has denied the youth center the ability to apply to that grant because they are too closely connected in to the township. So that one is just kind of flagged for ongoing discussions to determine if there's a path or a way that the youth center status can be revised so that they're seen separately and independent from the township and therefore would be able to apply to that funding. So that's kind of an ongoing item. We did discuss the Stream 2 Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund application, which is again the next step we'll work on the list tonight, around the arena renovation and the potential of having space in there for the youth center. At this point, there's a lot of unknowns with that project, and it is just more of a concept at this point than actually fully being moved on. But we had made the commitment to include the youth center in the ongoing planning and any big changes or progress that happens on that front. And I think for me, the big segment was the final one, the communication and working relationship. So we really did aim to come out of that meeting with an agreement that we would focus on improving our relationship, improving our communication, and try to look at things from a go-forward basis, realizing that we have a number of new staff members. They are having a change with their staff as well. And so trying to look forward together as opposed to issues that have happened in the past that maybe caused some discontent, and really just try to work together in the future. No financial implications flagged from this process. The biggest outcome would be your input on the attached MOU. And then we did realize that this was Council Reagan put that we were supposed to have another attachment on the history of the youth center. So we'll make that an attachment into the minutes.
The question, about their board, do they have a fully functioning board right now?
They didn't mention anything that would tell me that they don't. They did have a board meeting planned for the day, I believe it was the day after or the week after we had met with them. And I know that one of the action items, as we wrote this report, we did provide it to them for comment. And they wanted to take it to their board for input. And we received just some minor adjustments that we made after that fact, but that's my understanding.
I guess my only response to the report is some of it's anecdotal and personal experience, but I really think the youth center needs to re-engage with the community. I feel that in the last few years, they've been maybe narrowly focused on a core clientele, and I remember years ago, I used to sponsor the tree lighting, which they don't do any more things in the community. That I think brought them closer to the community and brought them more support back from the community when they do that. I continue to make financial donations to the youth center. I did this year, not a huge amount, but not insignificant. Never got a thank you. Little things like that, and I'm thinking, if they're not thanking sponsors and people that are contributing and giving them hundreds of dollars, they're gonna have financial troubles. So that's just my thing. I think it's a great little organization. I think it does serve a demographic. I'd like to see them work closer with the library. I think the library is doing a ton of outreach right now with the youth that the youth center, quite frankly, could benefit from some exposure to. And so sounds good. Did they say where they're at on their search for their staff leadership?
I have that update for my stuff.
Oh, that's it, right?
Yeah, but, so Chair, thank you for that. So again, I'm new to the youth center board since December, I think. So I think that from what I've seen and what I've heard from both sides kind of thing is that, and from other community members, is that communication is one of the lacking components in a wide variety of items. So I think that everything you said, I've heard, I'll bring it back to the board as well, on how we can do better. I wholeheartedly agree with you that working with the different community groups, even the schools, and those types of things, that absolutely to expand. In relation to funding, so I know I have provided them additional funding sources that are separate and don't have to be tied to the township, that they can apply for to advance their programming as well. So they're looking at making those applications, but we need, like, so me as the council member on the board, I know Bill, you were on for several years, so you are much more involved than what I had been. I'm happy to get that communication and bring that forward, right? Like, it's like any good organization, we need the feedback to be able to better. So, I hear you, I've made notes and I'll bring that forward, but if anybody else from council has anything, please send me an email, just so I can bring it forward. Similar to what we're doing now, it's just, let's get it fixed and move forward.
Councilor Roberts, please, Chair.
Go ahead, Steve.
Go
ahead, Councilor.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the report. One of the things I see in the report is it not recommended to separate the youth center from the township. I was just wondering what relationship we could get into, something like inside of our community centers where they have some autonomy, and then they can, and this is pending having dynamic and good leadership, and I understand that role is empty right now, but previously they had quite a bit of autonomy, and they pursued several different avenues for funding, and were able to conduct themselves as they saw fit, more than having to ask for permissions and things. And I see that with our community centers. There's a dynamic and varied group inside of Lanark Highlands, and having them have their own autonomy to guide themselves within their needs and stuff, maybe something that the youth center may look at. So when I see that as a option for two. I see there is room for that, at least in my opinion, for them to have more of their say by breaking away from us or us taking them outside of the umbrella of the township if that prevents them from doing things that they'd like. Thank you.
And Councilor Costa.
So, as a former, council representative for the youth center, and, there has been discussion around, the role of the youth center in the community. And you have to look back at the history. So when the youth center first started, it came about being, a place for youth of Leonard to go because we had a lot of vandalism in the community, and the mandate back then was completely different. Also, go back 20 years ago, we didn't, we weren't carrying around these. So that was a social outlet for the children to go to. Then through the years, the age requirement got lower. So then we were taking in 9-year-olds, up to 17, 18-year-olds. So I think there's been a transition through the years. And I agree with you that the library does perform a lot of overlap services at the youth center. It used to, or I'm not even sure what they're providing to the community at the present day. But there might be a collaboration between the youth center and the library. And as far as being a separate entity from the township, because we own that building, there is a responsibility tied to the township. I understand their challenges, applying for grants when they're told that because they are a committee of council that they're not eligible. So there's a lot of things that have to be unpacked there, and I will send a list to Allison that she can take forward. As far as the board goes, they have lost quite a few board members. I think they're actually down to probably the minimum board members that they need to be a viable board of directors. So if anybody out in the community is looking for something to get involved in, that would be the place to start. Thank you.
Councilor Reagan.
Thank you, Chair. So in relation to the MOU, I do still have comments. The roles and responsibilities, November 1st is the date that is set for the youth center to provide a list for budget. I guess my question is, would the treasurer prefer earlier than that? Because if we're anticipating bringing a budget prior to December, which was mentioned, I'm not saying this year, but that November 1 is kind of late. Like, I feel like the youth center could provide it by September 30th or October 1. And if the treasurer is fine with November 1, then that's fine, but it is kind of getting late into the year for us that normally budget and have it council in October. So that was one of my things, and then the tendering section, I guess I'm just confused on it because all of the major capital and maintenance is all the responsibility of the township, so I'm not sure why the youth center has to follow our procurement when they are technically a separate entity with their own board. I don't believe we make the library follow our procurement policy, so I guess I'm just confused on that as to why that's even in there. Because it's our building, they can't do anything without the municipality anyways, and it's our budget. And I don't think we're budgeting items for them to look after. And the only other thing that was discussion at one of our meetings with the youth center was putting in a line item in one of the duties of the township is to provide an off-peak hour rental at the same rate as the schools. It could be in the fees and charges by a lot of them too. I don't think it needs to necessarily be in here, but just for clarity for everybody, because I think that was one of those items that they had brought forward, or there was confusion on what their rental rate was. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Reagan.
Thank you, Chair. I have had concerns about the rental rate, so I do think that that is something that is important to discuss. I don't know how it was, my understanding of how it was in the past was that they did get the same rate as the schools. It's quite often the same kiddos, and if we're sponsoring them through school, it's the same families that need that support. So I do think it's warranted. I will speak with my day job hat on that, the clientele of the youth center goes in ebbs and flows of demographic. And the demographic right now in our area in sports and recreation is huge in the 4 to 7-year-olds. So the clientele right now for 12 to 18-year-olds is lower right now. And I think that with Maple Grove stopping their grade 7-8 program, and those kiddos go to Perth, that also changed the clientele of the youth center. So these are all things that I know the board studies and looks into at length, but I think it's important for the public and council to understand that it's a hard thing to discuss in isolation. We need to look at it as a bigger picture, and it would help to have, strategies and a strategic plan with this involved, also tying in the recreation master plan. So these are bigger picture items, and I'm glad that communication is the forefront, because if we can keep that open dialogue going, then that's what's going to help us be successful and be a partnership as we keep going. Because right now there might be a struggle, but in a few years, these 4 to 7-year-olds are going to hopefully want and have a thriving youth center.
Good point.
The left-hand side of there, I'm gonna be quiet. Sorry about that.
Yeah, a couple things. The reason that the county puts forward the funds for the executive director is to have that person on staff to go after grants, to hire the other people and look after them. Another thing we probably have to look at is the other youth centers, how closely tied they are to the different municipalities. Like at Smith Falls, a few years ago, was taken over by the Boys and Girls Club. I don't know if there's any connection to the town of Smith Falls or not. Probably not. But I don't know if there's still a Boys and Girls Club running it, but I know they took it over because it had faltered completely. Carlton Place, I think they had a meltdown, how closely they are tied. Perth, they used to have that different facility, these two over in the factory, now they're in Perth facilities. They had a meltdown a couple of years ago too, but the executive director had difficulties, so. Maybe it's Leonard's turn, as the Marina really kind of pointed out when, the high school kids are gone, they're not coming back in time to go for before supper time sort of thing, but you go to the other 4 that are in town, so the clientele is probably there. Because, they're home from school and whatnot, so they're quite a bit different than us in that regard. But I know since it formed, it has been a really good go, like until just recently.
Thanks, just to add to that, I think it's something you have to monitor, and like, we can't subsidize it, you're only get 5 or 6 kids coming to the youth center, I don't think that's not gonna fly long term. I wanna talk about one item, MLU number 2.5, and I think we need to tread very carefully on that item. It could open the municipality up to large costing that we don't see coming. It's to ensure that the building is structurally safe and complies with the building code, fire code, and other applicable provincial requirements. First of all, there's a 2025 OBC update, it has been updated, so I'm not sure what's gonna be in that building code. There could be stuff in there that we don't know yet, and it could lead to some costs. And if we ever get into accessibility requirements, and we're forcing ourselves to do that, we don't have the funding right now to go ahead, even though I understand that hopefully if we get something with the new building, and can join in with the new building that we're gonna talk about later on, then that will take care of it in that regard. So we may want to look at changing that item.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question. I think that item is in all of the agreements. So it would be something we need to look at for all of the agreements.
I don't know how you can get away without it.
I don't.
I do, if there is something similar, it doesn't seem that the wording is exactly the same, though we developed a new template agreement for community centers, and I just just had a quick chance, to take a look, and I didn't see the exact wording is the same, but I do have a note to myself to make sure we're consistent with the other community agreements, because really that's the idea here is that we act as a landlord basically for the building that they rent, and that should be the same relationship, that part at least, as all the community homes, so we'll aim to be consistent on that front.
Yeah, just the caution is that we can have somebody come in and say, you have to do this, and we're either gonna be forced with a situation where we're gonna shut the hall down, or we're gonna try to find funding to do it. That's, just wanna make sure that we realize that you could be talking not just little dollars, you can talk huge dollars.
Are there?
Yeah, I remember the first term I was on council, we were looking at upgrading the building here for accessibility, and at that time, if you were doing a major rental of a building, you would have to go full bore accessibility.
Yeah.
An elevator instead of a lift, for instance, which is immensely more expensive. But if you're doing minor renovations, that wasn't, you didn't have to go full bore accessibility, but I'm sure the Accessibility Act has changed in the last 18 or 20 years, so that might be a caveat you have to do anyway. I don't think.
It is word for word in the policy on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Counselor Roberts, Chair,
Yeah.
one more comment. Just in passing with these comments on, especially with regarding to the building maintenance, we've inspected these buildings annually, and I think the fire chief has done his fire reports and stuff, so I hope we're not hearing that we have structural issues or we have safety issues with the buildings, because we have youth and we have people coming and going in there, and if the building maintenance requests are of that nature, then I don't think we should be ducking them. I think we should be bringing them to the table head on and making sure that we don't have liabilities there, for sure. Thank you.
Okay. So I have a suggested motion. The council accept report CA 2025-10 as information. And the council approve the memorandum of understanding attached to report CA 2025-10.
We'll bring that. Changes.
And the report will be brought back one more time.
Yeah.
Okay? So we've approved it in principle, and updated report will be brought back to council. That's moved by Jamie, seconded by Marina. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you guys very much, everybody. Okay, so moving on, another CSRIF Stream 2 application update. This is Suzanne as well.
Thank you, Chair. So we are still talking about this grant opportunity and this second stream version, and initially, it's going back all the way to February 2023. That was when the staff had brought forward the concepts from Graph Architecture for the rehabilitation of the arena. And at that point had been directed to proceed with detailed costing of that project. And then fast forward to when the opportunity came up for funding, and we discussed on the 24th of September 2024 meeting, and we're looking for approval from council to submit for the funding. It came up that we were to look into the option of potentially incorporating the youth center into the scope of the arena renovations. And so with that, staff have been working with Graph Architecture to update what that would look like on the design and the costing side of things, because we do have to provide quite a bit of detail in order to be in the running for the grant. And so that is what we are at today, is that we have received that information, and as such, we have kind of project option 1, 2, 3 that could be considered by council for the grant funding opportunity. So the first one really just aligns with that initial project design concept, which was for the arena rehabilitation. Project option 2 would be that concept of preliminary design to fix some of those kind of key structural issues and do, some of the upgrades, as well as incorporate the upstairs, additional wing area that could host the youth center as an option. It could also be used for complete Parks and Rec office staff incorporated up there. It could have increased washroom sizes. And as well, the trade-off could be if the existing youth center building was to be removed, that would open up some additional space within the parking lot as well, which is one of the constraints of the existing site. And then the third option, just for a bit of a context and comparison, if we're putting a bunch of money in for a rehab process, what is the cost when you start brand new and then on a new site and a new project? So it's more for comparison purposes. We've had the potential project sketched out and costed at a square footage area, so fairly rough estimates, but to give that concept of a brand new facility. And in that case, it would be a slightly bigger building footprint. It could hold a larger ice surface that would be sufficient for junior A and B teams, which would open up the user groups a little bit. It could be on a site that could provide the necessary parking and also have a septic field as opposed to the septic holding tank that we have on the current site. And building new, obviously, it's easier to build to your building code requirements, whereas a rehab, there's only so many things that you're able to address. At the end of the day, the big piece is the financial implications. So the original rehab design, the estimated total project cost was $6 million. So the CSRIF grant would be a 50% grant. So it would cover half of that, so the $3 million cost. If we look at the option of incorporating some additional second story, including the youth center, total project cost would increase by 1.25 million, so up to 7.25 million, and so that would increase the total 50/50 cost to 3.625 million. And then just for comparison purposes, a new build, not including land cost, and assuming that that would be on a site already owned by the township, not that we have a site identified, and just again, just at a concept level, comes in approximately 19 million. So even at 50% funding would be 9.5 million. Our challenge there would be, even if we were to do it through debt and repayment, we may have challenges in just being approved for that level of funding. So I think overall, we see that new build option is likely out of financial reach. And then it comes down to which option, staff is recommending that we look towards the option number 2. It does carry forward some added benefits within a slightly higher cost. So within an extra $600,000 approximately, we'd be able to hopefully incorporate another facility use and even expand some of the options within the arena use itself. Well, any questions?
Okay. Oops. Wrong button. Well, I'll say I like option 2. For all kinds of reasons. I agree, I never considered option 3. I wouldn't want to go there anyway. So, and I think the other thing that we've never talked about was the capacity of, use corporate fundraising to pay for it. I don't envision the township paying 50%, like envision big interest paying a big chunk of that, but we will talk about that someday if we're ever successful, I suppose. But anyway, that's sort of where my head's at. Other questions?
Councilor Roberts, please, Chair.
Hold on, Jeannie, and then you're next, Steve.
So it's not really a question, it just, again, I'm in agreement with you, I think option 2 is the most viable to get bangs for our buck, and I never even thought about corporate or outside sponsors, so that, I mean, that's just a bonus. And you know, if you harken back to when they first built that arena, the community involvement was through the roof. Like, people just got on board with it, every youth, seniors, everyday people outside the community, so I could actually be a rallying cry. So I'm in option 2.
Further comment, Rita? Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, back up to you, White Lake.
Okay, thank you, Chair. You know, with the void of financial information that we don't have right now, it's hard to support any of these right now. You know, it's a substantial amount of money that's going into one area and one venue. I still have big regrets from not following up more thoroughly with the Perth, Tay Valley, Lanark Highlands recreational agreements that we had when we were looking at new buildings. And when we were basically told, right, from the provincial government that collaborative projects would have been approved, and we could have built a class. I always compared it to the Sportsplex. When the Nepean Sportsplex came into Nepean, it became an attraction that people wanted to go to. The people wanted to play at it. They wanted to go to the pools. They wanted to go to that venue for a lot of things, and it still is a vital component. And we have football, soccer, hockey, aquatics, gyms, and stuff going on there. And I think I would love to be able to get back into that avenue somehow, where we were looking at a new building with collaborative footprints from other municipalities inside of that, and we could have something that would provide seniors education, not education, but walking paths and foot clinics and places for them for our demographic, because we look at our demographic, we have a lot of seniors. It would relieve us from a big pile of the self-carrying the financials. I agree with the sentiment of getting corporate sponsorships as well. Like, we see things like that where Kavanaugh's have sponsored some of the things in West Carleton arena there. But I think for a municipality with the financial capacity that we have, it's, you know, these things are going to really be a burden on us. And then trying to make it pay for itself is going to become a white elephant. So I would say, without the financial information that we have for since 2021 on 2022, 2023, where we are with budget, I can't support any of them. And I think we should defer this until we have a better grip of our financials and some options that we could have where we could have a new building. I think that's what we need. If these things don't last forever, and we've seen the roof, we only got a 2-year warranty on that roof. It's going to come back to roost. We've got issues with the size of the ice surface not supporting hockey teams and leagues that we want to try and attract. We have parking requirements that are not going to be adequate for any kind of venue of any size. And we have back to the sewer and water stuff. You know, we have sewer and water problems there as well. So I really like to look long down the road on this and see if we can get ourselves into a position where we can participate in a flagship style building that will be in service for 50, 60 years and give us a place where people really want to come to. Anyway, just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I respectfully disagree. I think that very similar to Stream 1, or Stream 2, whichever word is called. We need to apply for this or we lose it. I think that if we are successful and then we do get to a conversation where we have to decide on where the money is coming from, if we absolutely can't do it, then we say, sorry, but we aren't able to. There's no skin off our back to do that, but if you don't put your name in the ring, then you get nothing. So I think we have a shelf-ready project in either one or two. So I think we need to pick one of those. We have been at this, like the first draft year on the shelf-ready project is from the beginning of 2023. Like, we need to get going on this. The upstairs of the arena is not able to be used. There's a lot of things with our arena that I think we can be doing better. So I do think we need to move forward. I think the easiest choice is number 2. But I think the most creative choice is also to entertain the idea of a new build. And Steve, we are still in contact with that joint master plan for recreation. Although they're not meeting us regularly, there are still conversations. The last conversation with Perth's new build was the piece of land they were looking at was no longer viable or successful. And so they're also in the same strait. And I think it's important to understand that if the Lanark Arena does go down for any sort of time, even if it's for renovation, that is gonna put Perth Lanark minor hockey in a huge, huge constraint, because Perth Lanark minor hockey uses more than half their ice time in Lanark. So I think that it is heavily used, it can be used even more in the off season to offset some of these costs and become more cost balanced. I think 19,000 is a lot. I don't know that, like, when I first looked at that, I asked whether it was a double pad. Because I don't know, I think that's a lot, 19 million, sorry, 19,000, 19 million is a lot for a single pad. But all that to say, I think the easiest option tonight is to push forward with option number 2. And I do think though we need to go back to that communication with the youth center, because it is going to involve many letters of support and a lot of community involvement in order to be successful. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Close.
Thank you, yeah, and I agree, option 2 is the one I would choose, yeah, the other option for the multi-use facility, we're talking is over $50 million. And just our share of the cost is gonna be more than what would be the 19 million, so I mean, that's not on the table. I'd love to see it, but we got a lot of priorities that we have to look after, and I don't think that's one that we can afford. I'll just say that we did have junior hockey as been played in that arena, and it was played before the arena has been expanded. There has been a lot of length to the ice surface since then, so because we moved the boards back on each end, so there was some added space and building in there, so junior hockey still able to play there. I don't know if you're ever gonna get junior hockey, I'm more looking at kids and have a nice service that's able to rent it out, be utilized, and have a facility that gives us options that we can use in the summertime again, we can use the upstairs and hopefully with the youth center in there. And that alleviates, that building is an issue, so I'm in favor of number 2, and this all hinges on us getting funding. If we get the funding, then we're gonna have to go to the beach streets to try to get more from other people, other sources, so. I'm in favor too.
I guess the one comment I would make about this super complex thing is. Of course, it needs to be done in partnership with multiple municipalities, and I think our relationships with our neighboring municipalities are very good. However, I was discouraged last week to see a councillor in Perth move a motion to try to annex us. It was defeated by his fellow councillors. I don't know if all of them voted against it, but it was turned down. But he wanted to begin the process of annexing Tay Valley, Lanark Islands, and Garden, which I didn't think was very constructive, especially when it just comes out of the blue, it's upgraded. My observation is that all the municipalities, we all have our own challenges, and each municipality is dealing with some particular challenges right now. I don't know if any of them have an appetite for a reading, but yeah, you never know. Ron, I've got a mover for this. I think we're gonna go away, read the motion, and say that.
I think Peter wanted to comment.
Oh, sorry, Peter.
Yeah, just thinking, I think I was the only one here that was alive when that building was built. Ron wasn't born quite yet.
Yeah.
It was 3 years after he was born. And it was, I think, almost fully funded by the public. There's a monitor in the front of the building here. Of course, it was 10,000, I think, was the cost of the building. And the ice plant didn't go in for 69, I think it was 62 was built. Oh, it was sure.
Sorry. Through each of the winter carnival's been going for the last 67 years, so.
So it was in the old.
That started in the old facility, but I just have heard stories through Connie and Don Drysdale and Fern Donaldson, and lots of people that were around that participated, and like I say, it took the community, they had lunch, I mean, it was just fundraising through the wazoo, so, I mean, it is possible.
Okay, so we have a suggested motion. The council directs staff to proceed with project option 2 for the CSRIF stream 2 application, and that this motion be brought forward for consideration of the council meeting 25th of February 2025. That's moved by Councillor Close, seconded by Councillor Summers. All in favor? And that's carried. All opposed?
Just myself.
Okay, thank you. Good. I think I'm on to corporate services now. Final review and approval of disconnecting from work policy by Nicole.
So you'll recall that in early January, we brought forward the disconnecting from work policy. Further to council direction, we did share the document with the union representative who has no concern with it. We also reached out to legal counsel and they conducted a thorough review of the policy against the legislation and made several positive changes to the document. That revised document was subsequently shared with the union again. The union agreed with the changes proposed by our legal counsel, and the draft policy that you see in the agenda is the proposed final version.
Excellent, thank you. Let me read the suggested motion. The council approved the final disconnecting from work policy attached as appendix A to report COR 2025-19. And that council enact the necessary bylaw to formally adopt disconnecting from work policy as an official township policy. Mover for that. Councillor Close, seconded by Councillor Kelso. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Nicole. I have Suzanne channeling as Rhonda for asset retirement obligation.
Thank you, Chair. So for the 2023 fiscal year, and I know we've talked about this on several different reports and meetings, but asset retirement obligations apply for that 1 year of fiscal requirements. And so we need to identify, measure, and report on the costs associated with retiring assets. And in the fall of 2024, council gave authorization to contract CM3 Environmental to complete the hazard assessments and designated substance surveys on our 34 of our own facilities to support this process. And these were completed in December of 2024. This staff report provides a summary of the findings. Those are attached for information. But we do need to conduct a little bit more work to be able to take it across the finish line. And this, we have had a brief discussion about this when we brought it forward back in the fall. But several of the other lower municipalities, lower tier municipalities in the county, as well as the county itself, use the services of KPMG's Ottawa office to complete this final piece of the ARO. And from what we can find, there's very few firms that do this. We've really been pointed only to KPMG to be able to complete this final step. So that's where we say that it really is quite limited. And as far as market goes, KPMG just kind of cornered it by having specialized staff and a separate division that is different from the one that conducts the municipal audits. So at this point, our understanding is that it relates to journal entries that incorporate the ARO into our township financial statements. And it also provides a model that rolls the financial pieces forward into future years. And a memo for the auditors to address the requirements of PS 3280, so. The quote provided by KPMG is a little bit vague, but it does kind of give a range for us and the number of assets that we have. Between 15,500 to 22,000. Now, this is our understanding that that is a full service model where they would conduct the work. They had also provided an idea that there was a possibility they could provide advice and we would be able to work within that. But at this point in time, we're assuming that they would be the ones to do the work. That is the model that our neighbors have gone with. So that is where we sit today. The funds that are required for that work is included within the 2025 draft budget that's still coming forward. And at this point in time, we don't have other options presented, but we do know that this is a legislative requirement and we need to complete it. And we haven't been able to discover or unearth any other firms that would be able to do this work for us.
I guess that was my question is, what option do we have? We've appointed KPMG to be our auditors. And now we're gonna have them auditing their own work, which sounds very unprofessional to me and I think not allowed. So how do we get around that?
Again, we would be alone in that, so I think the way that they have done it is to structure themselves as a separate branch. And so within the firm themselves, they have some separation, so it's a separate partner that manages it. Within KPMG, there's a separate team that are not involved in any of the auditing process, so they basically operate as separate entities within the larger umbrella branch of KPMG. But my understanding is there's other municipalities that would have used them for the ARO program, but also be audited by KPMG.
And no municipalities are using anybody else.
Councillor Roberts, Chair.
Not for this component, this kind of final piece. We followed the same model as Tay Valley Township, Drummond, I believe Montague, as far as having CM3 do the first step and then KPMG to kind of take it over this last, that basically form the connection into the financial and audited statements.
Just 1 second, Steve, I'm gonna recognize Councillor Reagan and then Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. So, I was gonna state what, Suzanne just kind of mentioned, is that CM3 are the ones that came in, did the assessments and put the dollar value on the asset retirement obligation. KPMG is just coming in and basically doing the entries, for the municipalities to make sure that it's, council has already set the policy on what process we're taking and how they are to apply it. So they're applying it, but it is multifaceted because CM3 are the ones that actually did all the work, provided all the documents that KPMG have to use to basically do the entries that implement it into the system based on the policy that council has set. So we did the same structure and it worked really well. So I'm in favor of this and we need to get our 2023 year end done as well. But it is what most of us have done.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Seeing as this is province-wide, I just find it hard to believe that there's not more options for us to facilitate a tendering process to get a nice clean operation where we don't have the same people auditing, they're doing the input. I agree with Chair's statements. I mean, it's just a blemish on us if we have questions about whether the integrity of the process has been followed. For the amount of money that we're spending and the big quote that we're getting, I can't believe that a provincial regulation at 444 municipalities in Ontario are following can only be done by one company. That doesn't wash it for me. I'd like to see this go to tender and see some options for ourselves.
The answer we've been getting though is it is the only company that does it, but maybe not, Councillor Reagan may have an answer.
So Chair to you, so this isn't, they're not auditing their own numbers. This is a year-end entry, no different than, for some municipalities, KPMG does all the tangible capital asset entries. It's a year-end entry that needs to be completed. But because the ARU obligation is new, most of us staff want to make sure that the initial implication is done appropriately to meet the requirements of PSAB. Because otherwise KPMG will approve it and they're gonna come back and do it anyways, probably for more, because they're not gonna fix what was done. So it's not, there's nothing being completed here that is questionable, in my opinion. I'm in favor of the motion and moving forward. This is a pretty standard work. It's just because it's a new PSAB requirement, that's why there's additional cost outside of our normal annual audit.
Okay, so I'll call the motion. Now, the motion reads that the council authorized treasurer to award the remaining asset retirement obligation work to KPMG for the estimated cost of $15,500 to $22,000 plus non-refundable HST. And that this motion be brought forward for consideration at council meeting on 25th of February, 2025. That's moved by Councilor Brayton, seconded by Councilor Kelso. All in favor?
Yeah.
And that's carried. Okay, Nicole, on Rogers Eorn Cell Tower Concurrence Extension.
Again, another one that was brought forward a few years ago and is now coming back to you. We were reached out by Rogers, who have had some setbacks at the site and are now looking to make a few changes to the tower on the site. We're building that site, building the tower on the site. They had originally planned for a 90-foot tower with some guide wires. Owing to the site conditions, they plan to change that to a 70-meter tower that's fully or self-supported. So they're seeking support from council, similar to what we did in 2021 with a letter of concurrence, taking their contract or work out to 2026. So the site survey is included in your agenda package, and we will prepare a letter similar to what we did in the first round.
Thank you, Councilor Kelso.
I'm prepared to make the motion.
And moved and seconded by Marina.
Just a question, Chair Steve.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the tower being substantially lower in height, is there an impact to the servicing for our ratepayers for any services that we're anticipating from that?
Councilor Roberts, after you. I am unable to answer that question, but I would be happy to take that question to our support and contact at Rogers and get the answer for you.
Perfect. Just noting that, it's been a long time coming with a lot of people still without basic services that you would anticipate would be mandatory almost for functioning in 2025. I just hope that there's not a declination in what we're going to get from this tower, or if there's a workaround that we can maintain what think we're going to get from it. Thank you.
So I have a motion moved and seconded. It reads that the report of COR 2025-22 be received, and the council grant a 2-year concurrence for Rogers Communications Canada for build site C8483. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Municipal grant policy review and update. Back to Nicole.
Again, one of these, if you recall, council has recently wrapped up the municipal grant process, and part of your motion coming out of that were a few changes to the application form, as well as the addition of a matrix similar to the one used by the county. When Chelsea and I took a look at making those changes, we felt that some of those necessitated a review of the policy. And we wanted to try to capture the elements that were added and those changes in the policy itself. So what you'll see in the policy is just a tightening up, if you will, of the language, putting it into the new format from its previous look and feel, as well as the addition of the terms of reference for the committee, the revised form, as well as the new matrix that the committee will now use to score and judge the application. So we have a bit of a more robust package for those community organizations interested in applying. And I think will make the work of the committee a little bit easier.
I just want to say thank you, Nicole, for spearheading this. These types of things are sort of the not so glamorous part of the job, and just nuts and bolts, and there's certain stuff that needs to be updated. I feel like it's been a breath of fresh air to keep bringing these things back to us, so thank you for that.
Just wait.
All right, so we have a suggested motion. The council approved policy F5 municipal grants attached to as appendix A to the report COR 2025-23. And the municipal bylaw be passed at a future council meeting to adopt the policy. That's moved by council, that's a question by councilor.
Thank you, Chair. I sent some items over to staff, so I'm not prepared to pass them the way they are because there's some errors that need to be fixed. So can we have it that it comes back?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to bring that back for council review.
So that we approved it in principle, that it be brought back for council review, and then a municipal bylaw be passed to the future. All right, you said that little bullet. Moved by councilor Borrego, seconded by councilor Kelsnor, all in favor? And that's carried. Yeah, but I do. Okay, we are at council committee appointment updates. We've covered a few of these already, but OPP detachment board, councilor Close.
No.
Joint planning committee, did you guys meet?
We did meet in the joint planning committee, yes, we did, we had a fairly good meeting, yeah, oh, Peter has it on there.
Just the agenda, basically.
Yeah, yeah, it's the first time the group has met since yeah. We are not a committee of council, we're working, I think we could be called a work group, is that where or a new or new terms that we're being, we're work group working with the Connect Well, and yeah, it was interesting conversation, and a lot of work to be done, but it was a good first start. Maybe Peter can add some stuff that we touched on, and I believe Suzanne could add some stuff as well, but she's there also.
Yeah, we filled in on some of the hires here, and one of the interesting bits, they have high speed, have had it for a while through fiber. And they're got around 100, I think it is, and they're costing us 600 and something a month. But I don't think the telemedicine would probably work without having the fiber there, I'm sure it would, that's one of the main things, that, did clean up some of the terms of reference and stuff like that. It's more a committee of the health center themselves, and just a community connection to the township is basically what it is. And has been for the whole time, and the 2020 report, we did discuss that a little bit, maybe going to the next meeting, have a wholesome discussion on it to sort of address the things that was in the 2020 report that didn't happen. And the ones that have happened. And that was where the joint committee started. It started working at it in 1999 for a centennial project. That's where that came from. And it's, probably the best thing that happened in that list of things to want, or want list, is basically what it was a pharmacy here at the village. Cause I always tell my doctor at Perth that it's the best pharmacy, and he agrees 100%. We really looked at it there. And Suzanne could probably add some more things.
I think the biggest was just updating all of the people around the table and the team that's involved. And I think we're looking to expand that and have the library involved as well. And there was discussion about potentially including the youth center for context as well. And our big thing will be trying to figure out next steps on if we are able to pull together a strategic planning process, but knowing that that is a longer term piece of work.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
I just wanna add, I guess we kind of remembered when the only ones that were there was from the board was Jean Dunn and Kara and the executive director or chair, she was online because she had a cold or something like that. And the last of the meetings was 2 or 3 of the other board members there, but they have since retired from the board, so that's what Suzanne indicated that they're trying to put forward. Talk to a couple of the board members to sit on the joint committee, I think.
Okay. So, next is me, library board, we had a meeting. It was good, wasn't too long. Relatively uneventful, I don't have much to report. I did want to flag the activities in the March break, which I've done. And they're there for all to see. Youth Center, anything further, 10,000?
Thank you, Chair. We do have a new executive director starting. I don't have the date and I'm not gonna advise on who it is. There's a public announcement to be coming, but we do have somebody. So that's exciting and I'll share the update as it comes out. And I just want to note that they did mention that there has been a number of maintenance issues addressed since the meeting. And that I believe they're starting to do payroll themselves and things like that. So there's some changes and they're happy to see that. And I appreciate all the work of staff at the township for making that happen. And we'll be moving forward.
Latter District Museum, Council Close. Middleview Museum, back to Council Director.
Thank you. They have their AGM next week. I'll be on a snowmobile trip for 8 days, so I won't be there, but I'll get the update for everyone.
Mississippi Valley Conservation,
Meeting next Monday.
Arnprior Public Library Board, Councillor Roberts.
No specific report, but just with the upcoming March break looming at us, I just want to remind all of our ratepayers that the libraries are for all of Lanark-Highlands to use. And as we see in our own library, that they're starting to provide a lot more than just lending books. It's a good resource for activities for kids, for seniors, and it's getting to be a good hub for information, not just going to get a book and stuff. So the libraries all work together quite well, and it's an excellent resource for people to start to tap into, especially when you have, kids at home for a week.
Recreation Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a formal report. We are scheduled to meet next week, but I will look to Nicole for a question. I don't know if it's a formal notice of motion or request, but I do think that at some point our terms of reference should come back to committee of the whole. I strongly don't feel that we are executing our mandate and our terms of reference as best as we can. And with Chelsea being back with us now full-time, I do think it's important for us to have a wholesome conversation and discuss, ideally pre-budget. The committee has no budget. We can't meet any of our mandate without a budget. And without trying, this is nothing to do with the committee because they are doing the best they can with what we have. And they are all very eager to please and do and commit. But I just don't feel that we have any direction or path to get to where we should be going to thrive. So if somehow we can get that onto an agenda, So that we can, because I don't think it's my place to set on my own or direct staff. So I think that if we can have a whole direction and then I can try to execute that through the committee, that would be the best case. Unless you feel differently.
Okay, so I'll look to you guys to figure out how to do that. Do we need motions or let's just kind of?
Councillor Roberts, please, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead. Counselor.
Thank you for that, Marina. I would like to see, like, if we could get the, all the terms of references shared to council. I think I asked for this before. If we get all the committee's terms of references shared to council, we could have a wholesome, discussion on whether or not we could amend or change or see these, because there's a lot of effort, a lot of community members are participating in these. We want to give them as much chance and opportunity to be as successful as possible. A lot of these terms of references are now 20 years old. Some of the things that they were tasked to do are no longer viable tasks. So I think as a council, we should look at them all and bring back our inputs individually and throw them in a hat and see if we can make things better, for sure. Thanks for that, Marina. Good point.
Okay. All right, moving on to Municipal Grants Committee, Councillor Kelsey.
I look forward to new policy.
Leonard Highlands Waste Committee, Councillor Kelsey.
We will be having a subcommittee meeting this Saturday to discuss some incentives or programs that we would like to maybe bring forward. And our next full meeting of the committee is March the 13th. And by then we should have our new public works person in place.
Leonard County Idea Committee. Okay, Councillor Close.
Yeah, like the one I always say is not on the traffic advisory working group. I attended the meeting and I set the minutes out, so everybody gets the minutes, so if there's any questions or anything that comes arise from that, just let me know. I will point out that there was another complaint about speed in County Road 12 in Alton, so they will be looking at that, putting the black hat up and taking the necessary information and taking the necessary steps. And there'll be future stuff coming to council about traffic cameras, and that will have to be done through the county as well, so it'll be a big county component to that.
Thank you. All right, so we have a suggested motion that the council committee appointment updates be received as information, moved by Councillor Summers, seconded by Councillor Kelsey. All in favor? And that is unanimous. CAO update, 2025 budget process.
Thank you, Chair. Just to note, we are working on a slight format change to just give a little bit more detail. For whatever reason, it didn't quite end up working in our, in this agenda, but our goal is on the CAO update, we'll have the title and a bit of a purpose, at least so it gives some context as to what the update is about. The goal here is to just give a little bit more information to the public, to try and give a little bit more of that information that I think was asked for with a written report that, because of timing and the way that we do these reports, doesn't really align with the regular staff report. On the budget process itself, as we do have formally booked the special council meeting for the draft budget process on Thursday, March 6th. It is listed on a online council calendar. There's also a meeting notice on the website, and we will advertise through Facebook as well. So in preparation for this, there's a draft budget document that will be circulated to council and the public in advance. We're aiming to release this by the end of this week. And again, we'll make sure that that is well advertised through the website and through our other platforms. And really that is the first step in the process. And then we are still looking at dates and timing, knowing that March has a couple of challenges with March break. But sometime in that last 2 weeks of March, we're looking to hold the workshop session. So once we have a date confirmed on that with council, and obviously the importance of, council members being able to attend, then we will, post that in the same manner through the website and also on any of our social media platforms. And then the end goal is to bring everything back to a regular council meeting, and that will be scheduled once we know when the workshop schedule is, because it needs to be the next council meeting to follow. So that's where we're at today, and I just wanted to kind of keep everyone informed as we move forward. Questions on that?
Just point of clarification.
So the goal is that we will have a budget document prior to the weekend?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Public Works staffing, this is a good news story. I'm happy to announce that we have, Catherine Maton, accepted as our new manager of Public Works for the township. So our start date will be March 11th. She comes to the township with a significant amount of experience, 17 years in professional experience, 13 years in the private sector, with GIS background and as a senior environmental tech. In the last 4 years, she's been in various municipal roles, including roads and public works technologist at City Mills, engineering technologist at Town of Perth, and most recently, she's been in the role of supervisor of public works roads in Kingston, where she supervises approximately 80 unionized employees, and is responsible for the overall safe and efficient delivery of maintenance operations, including winter control, asphalt, concrete, drainage, and maintenance. And that will also involve some contract administration and financial management. She comes with a CET certified engineering technologist designation, as well as road construction senior inspector and municipal infrastructure contract administrator. Those are designations with the Ontario Association of Technicians and Technologists. And then she also holds the GIS certificate as well as a visa license. She certainly comes in with a lot of technical knowledge, technical strength, writing abilities, problem solving abilities, specific experience with municipal waste management, project management, and a lot of feedback that she has done an excellent job within teams and fitting within a municipal public works environment. There's also been special notes about having passion, drive, adaptability, and integrity. So we look forward to having her join the team, and at that point, would also really like to express the thanks and gratitude to Steve Rothwell, our fire chief, for also holding up the public works department role at the same time. We've also had a lot of additional work flow down to Lindsay, our administrative assistant, and she really has gone above and beyond and just been fabulous in the time of having this void of a manager position. So we look forward to being at regular complement there. And then we also have the Public Works Operations Supervisor process on the go. So we're working to schedule interviews with applicants who applied back in the November posting. We have reopened the posting, you may see that online, and it's open until the end of next week. So March 7th is the deadline there. And we just wanted to ensure that we're looking at the broadest pool of talent available possible. So we just gave this final opportunity as we move into the interview process. And we are hoping to involve our new public works manager in the interview process for that role. Questions on any of those positions?
Just a question from Councillor Roberts on that one.
Go ahead.
Just on the timing of the window for the public works, are we gonna maybe make an allowance to allow the new public works manager to, because the 7th, she starts the 11th, if the closing is the 7th, if we extended it for 5 or 6 days, she'd be able to participate in the hiring process for that?
Sorry, just for clarification, so it's just the posting itself, so people would submit resumes by the 7th.
Okay.
The intention is to include her in the process of reviewing the applications, and also to be included in the interview process.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, my misunderstanding.
Then the third bullet was the Tatlock Community Hall water situation. So as requested the last CAO update, this is the kind of 2-week update on that status. So again, the hall was closed due to a public health notice regarding the water, which originally started from the, frozen pipes as a main issue. So the water is back and running again in the hall. The plumber was on site to flush the lines today, but there was a bit of a backlog on getting the plumber out to site because they are very busy with a lot of different frozen water issues at this point in time. But at this point, we will be doing the water testing and sending samples in tomorrow. So typically it takes 2 to 3 days for our routine testing. We're not exactly sure how long the chemical testing will take. But we do require those 2 pieces to be done and get the good results back in order for public health to allow us to open the hall again. And they also, public health needs to do a site visit. So staff will arrange for that to happen this week as well. So we're hopeful to have it reopen as soon as we have all of those components, the positive results back and the site visit completed.
Good.
Questions, Mark?
Jeannie?
So I did notice, that, Middleville, Community Hall stepped up to help, not call out. So they're having a function at their Middleville Hall, to help them out. So that was, good news.
Councillor Close.
Thank you, through you, Chair, when we, had the plumber on site, we look at steps to have this prevented from happening in the future, because I believe we said this happened before, so it's not the first time. It might be the first time the municipality was notified of it, but, yeah, I think if we're gonna, we don't wanna have to deal with this every winter when it's cold.
I don't have details on that specifically, but I'll look into it. I know that in past winters, they have left a small kind of trickle of water going, and that wasn't done this year. So I think it could be something as simple as that through certain cold weather stretches.
Yeah, I just would touch base with whoever did the plumbing, whoever thought it out. There is inline heaters that could go in. I know I have one personally in my own well, so that prevents us from being, you certainly don't wanna run, you don't have to run the whole 700 feet, because that would be, you're over $10,000 a year, to do that, so that's a lot of money to do that. Yeah, I'm sure it's just freezing right near the building somewhere, so you could put a small inline heater in there, that might solve all the issues.
Councillor Roberts has input on that, Chair?
Go ahead, Councillor Roberts.
Yeah, I agree with the 700 feet is a long line, and if we had to put a heating cable in there, it'd be ridiculous price. One of the options that you may want to consider is, I mean, those halls, the community centers are tied to other buildings. If there was a grant application for maybe a well, a newer well dedicated to the community center, maybe they could apply for that and limit that long run of pipe that's problematic.
Okay, well, the good news is the water is running.
Yeah.
I think all 3 of your updates were good news, thank you. Any further?
I do have one kind of hot off the press, but as, speaking on the Bell 5 option, so we did have technicians come into the building at the end of last week and, bring in the box that apparently will connect us into 5. And we've also received an updated contract, so it does seem as though we may be on the final steps of something that was supposed to happen in June of 2023. Fingers crossed.
Okay. Okay. I have a suggested motion that the CAO update be received as information, moved by Councillor Summers, seconded by Councillor Kelso, all in favor, and that's carried. I have a suggested motion that the committee of the whole meeting adjourn at 7:30. Councillor Kelso, Councillor Reagan, everybody has to be. All in favor?
We're out.
Carried.
Roll call, everybody's still here, that was here in the last meeting. So everybody please rise for the pledge of Canada. Disclosure of pecuniary interest be done now at that point in the meeting, or, you know, when?
Close on the camera, yeah.
Okay. Approval of the agenda, Ron Lugian, seconded by Jeannie, that the agenda be adopted as presented, all in favor? Carried. And Steve moving the motion for the minutes from February 11th, seconded by Bill, that the council meeting minutes of February 11th, 2025 be approved as presented, all in favor? Carried. This is down to the committee of the whole report from February 11th, Bill?
Third report of the committee of the whole, meeting of February 11th, 2025. We, the members, may meet to report section A's information and section B as follows. B's 2, motion COW 2025-033. The council letter, the council of Township of Latter Island supports consent applications B 24-061. 795-198 Ontario King, subject to the township's conditions of consent listed in Appendix E. B3, that the council of the township of Latter Island supports consent applications B 24-140 and B 24-153 Wharf, subject to the township's conditions of consent listed in Appendix E. The last one is B7, motion COW 2025-038. That council received report COR 2025-18 for information, and that council confirmed its intent to consider the local improvement charge LIC bylaw related to the Better Homes Letter BHL program at the February 25th, 2025 council meeting. All of which is respectfully submitted by myself. Motion is seconded by Councillor Close.
Does anybody want to pull one of the items out to vote on separately? None, all in favor? Carried. That is on the motions, moved by Allison, seconded by Jeannie, the council directs staff to proceed with project option number 2 for the CSRIF Stream 2 application. All in favor?
Can I have a recorded vote on that, Chief?
Deputy Reed King,
In favor.
Councillor Cook,
In favor.
Councillor Reagan,
In favor.
Councillor Summers,
In favor.
Councillor Kelso,
In favor?
Councillor Roberts,
Against.
Reed McLaren.
In favor? So it's carried. Asset retirement obligation, moved by Marina, seconded by Jeannie, that council authorized the treasurer to award the remaining asset retirement obligation work to KPMG for the estimated cost of $15,500 to $22,000 plus non-refundable HST. All in favor? Carried.
Have a recorded vote on that one too, please, Chief.
First, seconder,
Summers and Kelso, I think.
thank you. Deputy Reed King,
In favor.
Councillor Close,
In favor.
Councillor Reagan,
In favor.
Councillor Summers,
In favor.
Councillor Kelso,
In favor?
Councillor Roberts,
Against.
Reed McLaren,
In favor? That's carried. Bylaws, local improvement charge residential retrofit program, moved by Ron, seconded by Bill, The bylaw number 2025-1951 being the bylaw to adopt a local improvement charge residential retrofit program, be read first, second, third time short, passed and signed by the reading clerk. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 1952, moved by Jamie, seconded by Bill. The bylaw number 2025-1952 being the bylaw to adopt a disconnecting from work policy, be read first, second, third time short, passed and signed by the reading clerk. All in favor? Carried. County updates. Most of the updates are in the two press releases that came out this past week. There's not too much going on since then. No, just the things coming up, it was discussed earlier about the aggregate resource mapping that we want to do for the county. It's pretty extensive. If you have a look at it yet, they're looking at pretty much all bedrock that's within 9 meters of the surface, which is almost a third of the county. Pretty much Montague Township, into Backwoods and quite extensive. And I think one thing that's not really dug into is, how good that rock is, because sometimes, you might get in and it's all shelly rock, it should be limestone, but another problem can be, it can be too much water, you can't even pump, so the rock, you can't pump it because you can't build it last. I know that's happened in a couple of spots, but, and then the other thing is the growth management study that we're going to do. I think the last one was done a very number of years ago, 20 years ago, something like that. So that's what all is coming up. Anything else, Bill?
No, not really. Yeah, it's, the meetings are tomorrow, so.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I just had a question about the subsidized daycare. Are there any talks about building any new centers within the county?
Yeah, Mississippi Mills, they're got and say that a big load of money, was like 10 million bucks or something, it was a huge amount, and they're actually gonna build their own. But it was a tender, a solicitation anyway that they bid on, and they won. That was fairly recently, so nothing is happened yet. And a lot of the costs, I think, is just to build the actual structure.
Yeah, and they increased, I forget the number of places that they're going to increase, because there is daycares in Almont right now, but it was like 50 or something, wasn't it? Because we had a whole chart of how many, like, some of them were going to be consistent with what they had. And some of them were increasing a little, like 2 or 3 spots, something of that nature, but unless you're in Almont and you went to drive to find somebody else, and the Carl place, they own their daycare also.
Yeah.
But they're the only ones I think we got that. Anything else? So moved by Steve, seconded by Jamie, that the Lander County updates be received for information. All in favor? Carried. Those are meetings. Our next meeting is March 6th. Special committee of the whole for budget. And March 11th for committee of the whole council. Questions from the public? Allison?
Not a question, sorry, just reiterating, I'm on holidays for the March 6th meeting.
Rita?
I'll take you back, I'm on holidays for the 11th.
Thanks.
So that puts us into an in-camera session. Moved by Jeannie, seconded by Allison. The council moved into closed session at 7:50 p.m. to address the matter as permitted under section 239(2) of the municipal act, specifically personal matters about an identifiable individual and their relations or employee negotiations. That Suzanne and Nicole are in the room. All in favor? Yeah, good job. So we're ready to go again. So the rise report from the in-camera session is we council received information on the bargaining update. And before we go to the confirmation bylaw, I did note one thing in the roads that we're having, it's not a road crew, it's the grooming of snowmobile trails. We've had lanes blocked, in particular my sisters, and dragging snow onto the road at 5:11. One day they groomed it, they dragged a foot of snow halfway across the road, so that's one thing our roads department has to address with the snowmobile clubs, to no more snow on the roads, period.
Think they're doing it because of the snowmobiles running on Bear
No.
Road?
No,
They're
they
doing
run up the ditch and fill the driveway.
But they don't have to, it's just their operation. It's
Oh,
the
okay.
operator, the-
It's against the law.
They're supposed to dump the snow before they come onto the road. So I have Allison moving the confirmation bylaws, seconded by Jamie, that bylaw 2024. 1953 being a bylaw to confirm proceedings of council meeting held on February 25th, 2025, to read first, second, third time short, passed and signed by the regional clerk. All in favor? And adjourned. Marina and Jeannie at 8:05.
Perfect.
All in favor?